What is karma? We hear a lot about karma. There's many concepts that get shared regarding this Sanskrit word, karma, as we say in the West, karma. And I often hear people speak of this, and I often get asked this question. So I always, if at all possible, try to return back to my direct experience with regards to these terms, ways of describing reality, karma. And so that's what I'll share here, is my direct experience regarding karma. When you're at the ashram, I was in a class, and Swami, and Swami, by the way, is a Sanskrit word, it means teacher. One of the Swamis was speaking of karma, or as they would say, karma. I can't pronounce it right. I try. I like to try to say it correctly, but of course I'm failing horribly at it. As anyone who is a native Sanskrit speaker would attest to, as you're listening to me try. But I like to try. Karma. And so I'll say karma, as we say here in the West. And the Swami was speaking about karma with us. And as he started to share, as his words started to arrive in my being, it was like a transmission of energy was happening, and it was like an inward pull. My attention was pulled into the very sort of center of being within me. And all of a sudden, I noticed that I'm standing in a body of water, like a pond or a lake, but it was very smooth. The water was just very, very smooth as the vision began. And I was standing about waist deep in this body of water. Water was just completely calm. And then all of a sudden I noticed it wasn't just me in the water. Everyone, all beings are in that same body of water. We're all connected. We're all in that same body of water. And every little movement that we do in that water is going to affect all of us because we're all in the same body of water. And it's a beautiful visual that arrived that day to represent this dynamic field of karma that we're all connected to. And what happened next in this vision was I noticed not only am I standing, but everyone is standing in this body of water, but then I noticed there was a rock in my hand, about the size of a lemon, big lemon, but it was a rock and had a certain weight and mass. And I decided to take an action. I threw the rock up in the air. And then when it landed in the water beside me, it created ripples that rippled me. I was moved a little bit by the ripples of the impact of that lemon-sized rock. The ripples corresponded to the weight of the rock. And so I was moved a bit. And I noticed everybody standing near me was also affected by those ripples. And I noticed it rippled out beyond us and out to everyone. But as it spread out, it was less of an impact because the ripples, would be dissipating as they propagated out from the point of impact. So the whole body of water was affected by that action of me throwing that lemon-sized rock. But the people further away were less affected, but nevertheless affected. Then the next thing that happened in this vision, I noticed that I was holding a much bigger rock. Took both hands to hold the weight of it. It was as big as, say, like a big watermelon, big heavy rock. And I took another action. I threw that rock up in the air. And when it landed in the water, way bigger waves, way bigger ripples, because it was a much bigger rock. And so now my body was really thrown about, really affected by those ripples of that big watermelon-sized rock. And not only was I much more affected by that impact of that rock. So was everyone near me. And the big impact lasted even further out as it propagated out from the point of impact. The bigger waves, went further out because they were, bigger to begin with. So that propagates out. Now, once again, way, way, way out away from me and the people close to me, it's having less of an effect. But once again, it still affects the whole body of water. And then I became aware of not only am I throwing rocks in the water, so is everyone else. These actions that we take, ripple the field. And it was very clear that everything that occurs affects everything that occurs. So this karmic field that we're all in can get quite ripply if we're taking a lot of actions like throwing rocks. So then the vision came to completion and my eyes opened and I was aware of all of us gathered in that meditation hall for this class being taught these teachings, and how every action that we're taking in that dynamic field that we're all connected in will be affecting each other. Like this class and the Swami's words were rippling in the field, having an effect that allowed me to then have that inner experience. His words affected what I experienced. And in that moment, he went on to explain, I could now hear his words again on a more conscious level. And he was explaining that every action that we take in the field that's coming from that egoic part of us, where we're maybe taking an action that's unkind, unfair, not caring about others, selfish, manipulative, controlling, it ripples the field in a particular kind of way. And then he went on to explain that along with that effect, that cause and effect relationship within the karmic field, every moment that we're connecting into our true self, that still, peaceful, loving, kind naturalness that is our true nature, not only are we not creating any of those kind of karmic ripples in the field, we're actually softening out those kind of ripples. Every moment you're connecting in to your true nature, you're softening out previous ripples in the field. Every moment that you're in your practices, where you're meditating, yoga, chanting, the creative arts, very often for many of us become a spiritual practice, a way of connecting into that stillness. Gardening, out on a walk in nature, witnessing a beautiful sunset, petting a little puppy, hugging a sweet little baby, petting a horse. Many ways of connecting into the natural essence that we all are, that elegant wholeness of existence. Every moment we're connecting in through whichever ways that we have found allow us to experience that. Not only are we not creating any of those other kind of karmic ripples, we're actually softening out those kind of ripples. This is the true invitation and the true possibility to realize in every moment we can be this way in the field. And the more of us that are connecting in this way, we'll continue to shift this dynamic field that we're all connected in, this karmic field. And the more beings that are connecting into true nature through whichever ways allow them to directly experience that stillness of being, that kindness, that loving care, that compassion, the field will continue to shift and shift. And eventually, we will reach a threshold within this field. This has been taught by many of the ancient lineages, that this karmic field can be affected by our actions. So every moment we're connecting in, we're changing that field. This is why I emphasize a practice I call the loving blessing practice, where we beam love into the field. Many traditions have some sort of practice of offering loving kindness into the field. The more beings experiencing reality in that way will continue to shift the karmic field, and there'll come a point where a threshold is reached. And when that threshold is reached, the field will shift in a very powerfully beneficial way, and instantly everyone in existence will be able to open up to their heart, to the kindness, to the love, to the compassion that we are. When we reach that threshold, this place shifts and becomes a different realm. We could playfully refer to it as a heavenly realm, while in the body we could experience kindness, compassion, understanding, patience, sharing. There would be no more wars. There would be no more starvation. There would be sharing of resources. A heavenly realm. That is the lovely possibility. This is shared in many of the ancient esoteric texts and traditions, that we can reach this threshold. So every moment that you're connecting in to that stillness within you, that presence, that naturalness that you are, that is inherently compassionate and kind and loving, you're not only not creating any karmic ripples, you're softening out previous ripples.